Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. Today I want to talk about my postpartum checkup appointment with my midwife. I'm going to be filming a video about like what the first month is really like, kind of the struggles and stuff that I had. But this is going to be more, I'm going to take you through my 7-week checkup because I didn't go in at 6 weeks. I got scheduled at 7 weeks. And then I'm going to go through all of your guys' questions that you guys sent in. First off, everyone at the midlife clinic was obsessed with Theo, as they should have been, because he is so freaking adorable and precious. But I think it must be so cool for them to, they take you through your journey of pregnancy from like pretty much the moment you find out. Like they're some of the first people that know you're pregnant, often before like your friends and family do. Like they definitely knew I was pregnant before me and Michael told anyone. And so they see you from that point all the way up until they help you give birth. And so to then come back in, a month and a half later and just kind of see how you're doing, see your baby. It must be just such a rewarding job for them. And so I don't know, I just adore everyone at the clinic and they are such lovely humans. And I'm so excited to have more babies so I can go back there. I'm just gonna take you through like step by step what happened at my appointment because I was kind of curious how it would go. I was nervous, to be honest, but I'll get into that. But I just kind of want to talk through like this is exactly what happened for me. Obviously it is different for everyone depending on like who your doctor or midwife is and kind of how your birth and everything went. So this is just my experience. This is not the experience of the collective postpartum mother. Came in, they had me fill out a postpartum like depression survey that I gave to the nurse. The nurse took my weight, which I was really curious about. Like, I was geared up for like months and months and months of my body getting back to normal, and it's still not back to normal, and it's not gonna get back to normal, which I'm fine with. But I was curious weight-wise what I was because we don't own a scale in our house, but I was curious how much weight I had lost, where I was at. I fluctuate around 120, like anywhere from like 117 to like 123. I gained around 25 pounds. I got weighed and I was like 124, 125 pounds. So I'm like a couple pounds more than I was pre-pregnancy, but I was like shocked to see that number, but I was like, cool. That is one thing people have commented on over and over again, like, you don't look like you had a baby, you look so good. And I know everyone means well, but I don't know, part of me feels like guilty. I'm like, I'm not doing anything, like I'm just breastfeeding, bouncing, walking, like, taking care of baby is a very physical thing. So they asked how I've been feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. Like I said, I did a depression screening survey when I got in there, and that's like, in the past 7 days, have you felt blah 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 blah. But I would say like the first 2 weeks were the hardest emotionally and mentally because it is just such a huge adjustment going from an independent person to a mother, and you're now responsible and attached to this tiny human. So that was a big adjustment, and then you feel guilty for feeling that because you're like, I wanted this so bad, and why am I feeling like I don't want this now? And so I talked to them about that. And then they had me undressed from my waist down for like the physical exam. And then one of my midwives came in she was the one I wanted to see, and I got to see her, so I'm really excited. And I tried to time it so Theo would be napping during my exam. I like even woke him up a little bit early to feed him, to have him awake, to have him go down, but he was just, there's too much to look at. And he wasn't being like fussy, he was just awake and looking around. He was like trying to fall asleep, but he was definitely awake. And so the nurse had said, like, you can hold him, you can nurse him during the exam, like whatever you want to do. And then my midwife was like, you either gonna have him in here or like, I know I can find someone to hold him during the exam. I was like, oh, that is a great idea. Like if you're gonna offer someone to hold him, that's gonna take like my stress and anxiety of like him fussing during it and like screaming while you're like checking me out and everything. So she walked him down the hallway to like their back office, and I don't know, some nurse or midwife or someone held him back there, and I'm sure everyone loves baby snuggles, and he's such a good little snuggler. So I knew he was taken care of, so that would like took the worry off of me. So then she came back in, and I can't remember like the exact timeline of it, but she took a visual look at my nether regions because I had a 3rd-degree tear. And she said, wow, it's like healed up so well, that it all looked good down there. And then because I was due for a pap smear, I got a pap smear, which involved like getting a speculum inserted, getting your cervix swabbed. She took a look at my cervix and she said it was like a little off to the side, but She said it doesn't matter, like if I was trying to insert an IUD, it would be a little difficult, but it doesn't matter. So I'm wondering if that's gonna like straighten back out, or if it's just I'm gonna have like a lopsided cervix now, which is fine. She said there wasn't any sort of prolapse that she could see. She said everything looked nice and high. The only thing that was like different was that my cervix was off to the side a little bit after she took the speculum out. And to be honest, like the speculum was the part that I was nervous about, because when you tear, and I'm sure anyone who gives vaginal birth, like when you push something out of that, there's trauma to it. And I was just nervous about having something put in there, because you don't put anything in your vagina for the first 6 weeks. So I was just kind of nervous about it being a bit tender and spicy and stuff, but it wasn't. It was she was just so loving and gentle that it was such a pleasant experience. So she took the speculum out, and then she inserted a finger to kind of feel around, and she like, you know, when they do your exam and they like push down in your stomach, I don't know what exactly they're feeling for in there, but she was asking if there's any pain when she like pushed down around my like ovaries and uterus and that sort of stuff, and there wasn't. She then had me do like a half crunch, and she felt for any ab separation, which I didn't have, which was cool, because I know, what is that called, like diactis rectus or something like that. So I looked it up, and it's actually pronounced diastasis recti, or that's what the internet tells me. Where you have ab separation. I didn't have any, so like awesome. It all checked out really, really well. She asked me about birth control, if I had any birth control plans, and I used to go to Planned Parenthood back in the day because I just didn't have a normal doctor. I would go for my yearly exam there, and I always skirted around the issue of birth control because I felt like they would be judgmental if I said I charted my cycles, because there are so many misconceptions about it. My midwives are awesome ladies, and I was like, they're gonna be super chill with it, because especially this particular midwife, she's a bit crunchy, which I like. And I was like, to be honest, I charted for 5 years before we started trying, and that has always worked out, and that's what I'm going to go back to. I know I need to be super safe, that my cycles are going to be irregular, but I don't go off my cycle, like, you know, the length of it and everything. I was like, I feel completely comfortable with that, and I know we need to be super careful and everything. And she's like, cool, yeah. She's like, and if you ever want to come, you know, decide you do want a different type of birth control, come back in and we'll talk about it, but go ahead and do that. We talked about how, you know, your cycles are irregular coming back, and they can be really wonky. And I was like, yep, I know. I'm gonna miss those ladies. I'm gonna miss them until baby number 2. I asked her, I was like, what do you recommend here for like baby spacing? And I think it's like 18 months, but she says people definitely have babies before that. I recently heard of someone getting pregnant right after their 6-week checkup, and I cannot imagine that. Nope. So I will be super careful. I'm going to be making a whole video about charting postpartum, and I think that's a question, but we'll get into that. And they gave me a piece of chocolate, which I thought was great. Don't you wake up, child. Theo's down for a nap. That's how I'm getting filming done. Okay, so I kind of broke the questions up into physical, emotional, mental, life as mom, the actual appointment, and miscellaneous questions, which are like 2 that didn't fit into any other categories. So let's start with physical. So one I saw was like, how am I doing after a 3rd-degree tear? How's your vagina doing? Questions like that. And honestly, like the first week especially, but probably 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks were not difficult, but it was spicy down there. It was definitely tender and sore, like sitting down hurt. If I didn't keep up with my ibuprofen, like, oh, that was bad. It's definitely hurt those first 2 weeks. Just really trying to take care of it while it's healing with, you know, witch hazel, Tux, sprays, being really delicate when you like spray it off after you go to the bathroom and dabbing it, overly caring for your vagina after that. I guess it's actually your perineum, but caring for your lady bits definitely helped. But I cried more than once, a couple times definitely, because my vagina just hurt. And I guess my perineum, it was just like my back region, you know, the little space between your, anyways, you know what tears. At this point, 7 weeks postpartum, it feels not, I wouldn't say normal, like I still am conscious of it, but I think I'm just conscious of it because I know I tore. But I feel like I have full range of motion. I went on a walk that was too long early on, and it felt just like the whole like seat of like my nether region, like vagina, butt, perineum, everything just felt heavy and like achy, but I don't have that now. So everything down there is good, and it checked out well, so I'm very happy about that. Someone asked, can you start to exercise again? Someone else said, how does it feel to exercise? So yes, I got cleared to exercise again, and I'm so excited to exercise oddly enough. Like, I want to go running and everything. I have been doing a lot of walks with Theo. I take him out in a little stroller and we hit the town, either the neighborhood or a cemetery we live near. A little bit of like yoga and stuff. And Michael and I went on a bike ride once, but that's kind of the only exercise I've done up until this point because I didn't want to like do anything too strenuous until I got checked out. And not like exercise in the sense of like getting my body back, because like my body's fine, it's whatever, but I think like mental health, use my body again, I'm so excited for. And then going off of that, they said, when do you get your first period postpartum? This is so unique to each individual. There's no like, you're gonna get your period at this point. I have a feeling that I will get my first period sooner rather than later because Theo is going longer stretches at night. You know, when you are breastfeeding, it can delay your cycle coming back, your period coming back, but they're supposed to like breastfeed every 4 hours. And so he's going longer than that at night. Not every night, but some nights. So I'm fine getting it back. Like, I love my period. And I think once it does get back, the sooner it can get back to being more normal and easy to track. So I'm all for getting out of this like postpartum cycle limbo and getting back to something that's more trackable, if that makes sense. But it hasn't come back yet that I know of. I just stopped bleeding recently. It tapered off around 4 weeks and then came back and then tapered off again at 6 weeks. So I think I'm done with it now, the postpartum bleeding, but we'll see. The next question is, if you did more of a doula routine, do they still cut you? How long till the stitches are gone? And so I think you mean going with a midwife. So a doula actually only supports you through labor. They don't deliver your baby. A midwife is the one that delivers your baby. So oftentimes people will have both a midwife and a doula, or they will have a doctor and a doula, but the doula is not going to be delivering your baby. When I went through my birthing class at the midwife clinic, they were very like, giving you an episiotomy is the last resort. Like, we do not want to give you an episiotomy because if you tear naturally, you're going to heal faster than if they cut you. And obviously there are reasons for them to give you an episiotomy, but I did not get cut. I just tore on my own. That very last moment of his head coming through, like up until that point there was no tearing, but it was just like that final push of his head coming through that I think tore. They put in dissolvable stitches and they said that it would take like 5 to 6 weeks for them to like dissolve and fall out. And I think there was once like a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where I wiped and I'm pretty sure there was a stitch I saw, but I don't know. All the stitches are gone now at this point, 7 weeks, but they say like 5 to 6 weeks is how long it takes for them to dissolve. Okay, it is several hours later, but I am back and ready to wrap this up. The question I was on is, what is something your body is doing or not doing at 7 weeks postpartum that has surprised you? I think with this whole experience of being pregnant and giving birth and like being a mom, I've just been so shocked. Not shocked, I've just been pleasantly surprised with how incredible our bodies are. Like, I look at Theo and I'm like, I grew this arm. I created those eyeballs inside of me. Like, the fact that you can grow a human inside of you is crazy. I think being postpartum, I have been just surprised with how quickly my body has healed from birth, and also just like going back to where it was before. I think like it's just insane. It's insane that like people say like, you don't look like you had a baby, and people were saying that to me like 2 weeks postpartum, and I was like, well, take a look at my vagina and you would say otherwise. But it's all healed up. So I think that's just the most surprising thing, is like how incredible the body is. Another thing that is incredible that Michael comments on all the time is the fact that my body is all that Theo needs right now to nourish him, because I am able to breastfeed. Not only have I grown this human for 10 months, 9 months, whatever inside of me, but I've now continued to grow him for another 2 months from my body, which is just absolutely incredible. And the next question was, what were your limits until this appointment? How's your body doing? Changes? Also, what did they tell you at your appointment? New goals or limits, and how do you feel? A lot of different things. I think your limits up until this postpartum appointment is like no sex, no tampons, like nothing inside your vagina. You're not really supposed to exercise or do anything too strenuous until you get cleared by your doctor, your midwife, or whoever. Changes, I mean, gosh, there's so many changes. The person I was before I got pregnant to the person I am now as a mom is like not a completely different person, but you know, different. Like, you're it's inevitable that you're going to change. My body now versus then, my boobs are bigger and they're feeding my son. Still, even though everything has healed up, it's still healing down below. What's that line called on your belly? I still have that line on my belly. It's faded a lot and it's continued to fade. The only stretch marks I got were on the skin in between my belly button and my belly button like piercing hole. And so that's kind of like loose. I mean, my stomach's still not back down to like completely where it was, but I'm not going to complain. I haven't been like exercising or anything. It is what it is and it'll get there, but I'm so happy with my body as it is now. The next question, how's the belly doing? Curious how long it takes to get back to normal. So once again, like everyone is so different. For me, I would say it took like a week to go down pretty much all the way. And then by like 10 days postpartum, I would say you couldn't tell I had a baby. So I pulled these photos off of my phone to show you kind of how my body changed over the first couple weeks postpartum. Obviously still pregnant in it. This is, I think, a day before my due date, so about 3 days before I went into labor. The second photo is 2 days postpartum, and you can definitely see that I still have a bump, and this is what I expect it to be like for weeks and weeks. But as you can see in the next photo, this is 6 days postpartum, so about a week, and you can see I'm pretty much back to normal. 10 days postpartum, once again, even smaller, closer to normal. 2 weeks postpartum, and I was feeling pretty good at this point. Like my stomach was kind of back to where it was. I mean, it definitely isn't, but it looks that way under clothes. And this one is from about a week ago, so 6 weeks postpartum. And so you can see that my stomach is very much different compared to where it was in that first photo. I've had people ask me if he's my son. It's not as loose as I expected, but I know people talk about it being loose. The belly's like pretty much back there. I can give you, I don't know if you can see. This is not sucking in or anything, that's where it is. Sucking in, but yeah. You can kind of, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of the line. Final like physical question. What did you actually use / need as far as what you prepared for physically postpartum? I made a whole video about like my postpartum essentials that I used. And so I highly recommend going and like watching that. But yeah, just kind of stocking up on, and you don't have to do this beforehand, but when you come home, just make sure you have things that are going to be soothing and cooling on your lady bits, any sort of like ibuprofen medication, stool softener. Next, into the emotional and mental category of the questions. One said, you don't have to answer if it's too personal, but any postpartum depression. My lighting was just getting a bit funky because it's changing. Theo's waking up, so I don't know how much more I can do. Yeah, postpartum depression, I wouldn't say I had it. I definitely had the baby blues the first like 2 weeks, but it's just like, it's such a big adjustment that I don't know how you can't feel a little down in blue. I'm gonna make a video about like that first month because that's when it's like very real. I feel like I've adjusted and gotten comfortable in my role as like a mom and a caretaker of this little person, and I love it now. Like I'm obsessed with him. I just want to hang out with him and I love him so much. So the two main questions for emotional and mental were like postpartum depression and then like sex drive. Libido, I would say that I definitely have like a libido, but I haven't acted on that libido because you can't. Obviously, you have to go about it differently once you give birth vaginally, which may be a whole nother video, and I haven't even ventured into that world yet, so I can't really speak from experience on it. But yeah, I would say that I've definitely had a libido, I just haven't acted on it. Let's pause again and go check on the baby. He quieted down when I got up there before I went in the room, and then he just picked up again. Let's give him a couple more minutes and answer a few more questions. The next category is life as a mother, which is still a crazy term to me. So the first question was, are you sleeping? Nighttime situation. So, I mean, he's screaming right now, but he is such a good sleeper. He's getting so much better at like putting himself to sleep, which is a great skill to have, and self-soothing. Like he self-soothes with his like face up against the like mesh wall of the bassinet. And yeah, I'm sleeping. Like I'm definitely sleep deprived. I mean, let's go calm him down. I'm never gonna get this video filmed. 12 times the charm. This lighting in this video is gonna be all over the place because I've been in and out, in and out, in and out. Okay, Theo is up and fed with Dad in the backyard, and we're gonna continue filming. So sleeping, you're not getting a full night of sleep because even if when you are sleeping, you're still like listening. And Theo's just a noisy sleeper, like he grunts a lot, which is fine. I think it's better than him being completely silent because then I probably be worried if he was like still breathing. So he can grunt. He is to where he is waking up once a night, usually somewhere between like 3 and 5 a.m. He goes to bed at 7, I feed him again at 10, and then he usually wakes up, like I said, between 3 and 5, and I feed him again, and then he's up between 6 and 7 a.m. Yeah, do I miss sleep? But I love my child, so. And I know it's so short-lived, like he'll be sleeping through the night before we know it, and that will be that. The next question is, how do you manage time and get any work done? My advice for this is you just kind of have to work around their schedule. Some people are like pro schedules, other people are anti schedules. Not necessarily like putting them on a schedule like I will only feed you at these times. It's more of like actually looking at when your baby is eating day to day. It gives you some like control over like, okay, I know he's gonna eat around these times during one nap, usually the first nap of the day. Eat breakfast, get everything ready, get set up, and then he'll wake up, I'll feed him again, hang out with him, and then when he goes down for his next nap, I'll just continue to film through his naps and continue to like work and edit through his naps, and you just kind of have to do stuff during their naps. The next category is the appointment. So the first question I have is it just a pap smear? And I don't think you get a pap smear unless you're due for one at your 6-week postpartum appointment. I think they just kind of like check you out depending on your actual birth. Like, did you have any tearing? It is very dependent on what type of birth you had. I only had a pap smear because I was due for one. And the next question was, did you pass the sex check? I did get clear for exercise and sex and everything. Like, I don't have any restrictions at this point. Do you get automatically referred to a women's physio, or will they decide if you need it? I didn't need to get referred to one. I talked to her about how I peed myself those like 2 or 3 times in those first 2 weeks. And she said, if you have any leaking or any of that in the next couple of weeks, let me know. We can get you referred to a women's physio. But at this point, I don't need one. But I think if you do, they'll definitely refer you to someone. Or you can ask to be referred to someone. The next question, are you going to talk to your midwife about FAM? She asked about birth control, and I told her I was going to go back to charting. So yes. The next one, I was terrified they would do an internal exam or use a speculum, and they said mine didn't. So they did do an internal exam, and they did use a speculum. Like I said, I got a pap smear, so I think that is what the speculum was for, and also for her to like take a look at my cervix. I know other people, they didn't do like anything internally, but I like almost wanted her to, because I knew I had tearing, so I just wanted to make sure that everything was okay inside and out. And then the last one, could you please share about the first appointment? Is it at 3 months? So usually I think it's around 6 weeks postpartum. It's after you give birth. And the last 2 were like miscellaneous ones. And the first one was overall, what do you miss the most pre-pregnant time? There's not anything that I miss that I used to have that I don't have now that I'm not going to have. Like, everything's temporary. We just have a kid that's gonna come along with us and do stuff with us. So I would say, like, I wouldn't trade it. Sleep's gonna come. Sleep's already so much better than it used to be, so I don't have any complaints. I don't really miss anything other than being able to like just peace out and like ride my bike somewhere. And final question, what all has changed in his body in the first 7 weeks? I mean, he's just grown a lot. He's grown a lot. He kind of went through a bout of baby acne. It's getting better. He's losing his hair, but like you can see new growth coming in. He's gained weight. He's filled out. He's like gotten taller. Like, he's grown so much in the past 7 weeks that it's crazy. Hey, need me? Okay. So, and the final thing I would say about like getting stuff done is get a baby carrier. I really recommend wraps for like the newborn phase. Like, he still loves his wrap. Sometimes I go between his wrap and his Aero Baby, so I have the Solid Baby wrap and the Aero Baby, and both of them are just, I mean, you have 2 hands and your arm isn't like so tired from carrying them around. Don't leave the house without a baby carrier, even when I have like the stroller and stuff, because sometimes they just want to be held, they want to be close to you, and that's fine, and I love it. There's gonna be a day when he doesn't want to be held and he doesn't want to be close to me. He'll love me forever. But yeah, this is how you get stuff done, is you have a baby carrier. Learn to do stuff with like one hand, or wear them and do stuff, or work around like their schedule too. I'm gonna close out the video now. I think I've covered everything. He's trying to escape right now. And we're gonna go clean up the house because it is an endless battle of just baby things and food things and that sort of stuff. So that's what we're gonna go do. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I answered your guys' questions, as well as shared my like postpartum checkup. I'm gonna do one that's more, I think, that first month. I have the notes and everything down that I've like been keeping track of, but that's gonna be more that video than this video, so keep an eye out for that. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.